where we'll be dealing with BSW121, that is professional social work. And in the past two classes, we have done the first block of the same course. Today, we are going to start with the second block of the course. Okay. So I will just share my screen with you all. Okay. I hope you can see my screen now.
Yes, we can see.
Okay. So the second block is basically about the basics of social work, where we are going to understand exactly what professional social work is, the nature of social work, scope of social work, goals, and the functions. Okay. We are also going to study the various principles of social work, okay, and their application to the field of social work. We will study the history of volunteerism or voluntary action in social work, and also some social work ethics. Now, these are written more specifically for the Indian context, but most of these ethics, and work, you can also see it very relevant to your own country. Of course, some of the voluntary actions you will have to, study more in terms of the um, something which is more specific to your country. But we shall be studying some of the voluntary action work, and of course the ethics will be very much relevant even in your setting as well. Okay, most of the ethics that has been given in social work. So we come to the first chapter, that is basically introduction of social work, professional social work. We are going to study the nature, scope, goals, and the functions of social work. Now, this basically unit is there to make us understand the philosophy of the social work. How social work, what exactly social work is, what is the function of social work, what are the goals, what are the basic ideologies on which social work functions, and the spiritual nature of social work. Okay, so we will be studying all of these in details in this unit. Now, the subject of social work, or rather the discipline of social work, it has been given different meaning by different people, and this is more. So this is all the more because in many places they have equated the concepts of charity with social work, okay, and other services like voluntary actions with social work, and there are a lot of reasons for this misconception. Social workers, they are generally unable to separate the Western professional components and the traditional religious components of social work. So we know that the emergence of social work is based a lot on the charity concept, which is being given in various traditional philosophies across the world. But as social workers, we have not been able to separate the Western professional aspect and the traditional religious components. Second is the terminology has not developed. Okay. And because most of the social workers have been busy, preoccupied with solving the, everyday problems of the clients rather than actually developing more theory. Then precision and accuracy, of course, you most of the times you will find that this is definitely lacking, and most of the findings are drawn from social issues. And social issues can be, very context specific, and they can be very subjective. There is a great deal of subjectivity in social work, and it also deals with problems about which even a layman has some fixed ideas. Okay, most of the problems that the social workers are dealing with, whether the problems mostly are social in nature, could be related to substance abuse, it could be related to domestic violence, discrimination, social discrimination based on different aspects, could be related to unemployment and poverty, and so on and so forth. And most of these problems, people, generally people, they have some ideas about these problems. And a lot of times, what happens at many times, generally people like politicians, like many a times film stars, and other sports persons. They also have their promotional campaigns and they call that as social work. Okay, but that is definitely not social work. We also know, since trained social workers who are paid, okay, and untrained social workers who are not paid and work voluntary side by side, it is difficult basically for a layman to understand the difference between the kind of activities that come under the label of social work. Okay, and that is one of the reasons, these are some of the reasons why social work has not been able to come out of the its image, from those related to the religious philosophies like charity. Then we come to the nature of social work. What exactly is the nature of social work? What happened? Um, Sometimes we will find that there will be individuals who are having certain kind of problems. They can be personal problems and they can be family problems. Many times they can solve these problems themselves. Sometimes they cannot solve the problems by self. They require a person from outside to help them, resolve these problems. And an individual seeking help here is known as a client. Okay, and the trained person who is helping the client is known as a social worker. Okay, and when we are directly dealing with individuals, we are using what is known as a social case work, which is a method used in social work practice. Okay. Now, generally, the clients, they should have some motivation for self improvement. You will find that generally the clients who come to us for help, who come to the social workers, they need to have some kind of a motivation so that they can bring about changes in their life. They bring about changes in their habits and their behaviors. Okay, now, okay. And this readiness to accept help, this is a very important condition for social work. So you need to have a client who should be ready to accept help. You cannot help a client unless he wants to be helped. Okay, he or she wants to be helped. So this readiness to get help, that should be there. Social workers, they should not in any way they feel superior to the clients, because of course there is this factor of empathy that is to be there, that is to be shared by the social workers, whether they understand the client's situations. Okay, whether they are able to understand the situation of the client by placing themselves in his role, in the role of the client. Okay, so this is basically having a more empathetic attitude towards the client. Now, usually what happens uh, during disasters and natural calamities, hundreds of people, they donate cash and kind to help the victims. But this is not what social work is all about. This is basically social service, which is again also utilizing some kind of more or less some kind of charity. But in social work, we are having a face to face interaction with the clients. Okay. And in certain instances, in addition to temporary relief, social workers also help in improving interpersonal relations and adjustment problems related to disaster and the natural calamities. Okay. For example, people who are having some kind of a trauma experience, some kind of a traumatic experience during these calamities, they require counseling. So, social workers will help them get out of the trauma or get out of the traumatic situation, help them, counsel them. So, basically, they are more involved with the dealing with the deeper issues, okay, and other kind of relationship problems. So this kind of a help that is provided to the client, this is a part of what we call as social work. Now, the first nature of social work is that it has a scientific base. Okay, scientific base means that we do not carry out any activity just like that. It is a proper discipline. It is a proper scientific discipline. It is a scientific body of knowledge. And though social work borrows from other disciplines, most of the theories, methods that we read about in social work, they have a very strong scientific base and they have been developed after years of research using scientific methods. Okay, so social work, it has three types of knowledge. One is what is termed as a tested knowledge. Okay, second is what is known as hypothetical knowledge. This means this requires transformation to tested knowledge. And third is the assumptive knowledge, which is a practical wisdom that requires transformation to hypothetical knowledge. And then we take to the tested knowledge. So, tested knowledge, you can say, is the highest form of knowledge, which has been tested, which has been scientifically tested, by a number of professionals, and only then they have come up. For example, the various principles that we use for social casework or for social work, the various stages of social casework, stages of social group work and community organizations, all of these are tested knowledge which have been scientifically tested by professionals for some time. Hypothetical knowledge is generally requires to be converted into a tested knowledge. And assumptive knowledge is basically what we assume. So this is generally comes from practical wisdom. This has to be changed into hypothetical knowledge, and this hypothetical knowledge has to be further changed to what is known as a tested knowledge. Okay. Now, generally, we have borrowed from a number of social science disciplines, including sociology, psychology, anthropology, political science, economics, biology, psychiatry, law, medicines. All of these disciplines, they have contributed very much to the understanding of human nature. For example, sociology studies the society. Okay, psychology basically will study the human behavior. Anthropology studies the human society in its entirety, okay, including the evolution of the human society, including the evolution of the human beings. Okay, it also studies the lesser known societies. Political science studies the political institutions existing in the society. Okay, economics will study about the economic institutions. Okay, similarly, you have biology, you have psychiatry, you know law, medicines, all of these different disciplines will cater to one or the other aspects of society or individuals. And that is why we say that social work draws heavily on these different fields of knowledge, on these different social science subjects. Okay. Now, social work is rooted in humanitarianism. Okay. Humanitarianism is basically scientific humanism as it uses scientific base. It's based on certain values, okay, which constitute what is known as the philosophy of social work. So, what founds the philosophy of social work? You can say that the philosophy of social work is rooted in scientific humanism, okay. And social work is also based on faith in the essential worth and dignity of the individual. It considers that every individual has worth, okay, inherent worth, and they have dignity which needs to be, which needs to be understood, and this needs to be, you can say that, I mean, we need to consider this particular philosophy. Then man is an object of respect not because he is rich or powerful, but because he or she is a human being. So this is the second, the context, the second thing that we have to understand, that every individual needs respect not because he or she has money or resources or maybe power, but he or she needs to be respected because he or she is a human being, as simple as that. Okay. And human nature endows the individual with worth and dignity, which every other human being has to respect. So, this is the basis of humanitarianism that gives root to social work. Social work is against any kind of a discrimination which may be based on the socio-economic, or physical, you know, attribute of an individual. or religious attribute of an individual. It does not believe that it does not believe in the theory of evolution, social evolution. It does not believe in that. This the theory of evolution. It talks about the survival of the fittest, which is what is known as the Darwin's theory. You must have read it somewhere, that the theory of evolution, it says that only the fittest is going to survive. And when you apply the same to the social to the society, you you end up getting the philosophy of social Darwinism. Okay, but social work is very much against any kind of social Darwinistic approach. It truly believes that the strong and the weak, there is no competition between them, with any kind of, resources and access to resources. Everybody has a right to survive, whether an individual is strong in terms of access to resources or weak. Okay, just that the strong will survive doesn't mean that the weak will perish. Okay, and that is what social workers, they have to talk about, that they have to provide services to the weak, to the differently abled, and all those people who are in need of care and protection. Okay, so this is basically based on the idea that there is every individual needs to be, there is an inherent worth and dignity of every individual, irrespective of how much he owns, how much he earns, or how much power he or she has. Okay, so social worker, they believe in the capacity of the individual, and also they recognize that individuals are different. They have their own self determination. That means that they need to take decision about their life, about what they want to do. Okay, they need to have informed choices. And also it is a combination of idealism and realism. Okay, uh, of course we know that an individual is greatly molded by the social circumstances. So whatever social background we come from, that particular background are going to mold us, okay, as an individual. And ultimately the individual must bear the responsibility for his or her conduct and behavior. So the way we behave, the way we conduct ourselves, we have to be bear that responsibility. Okay, for all our behaviors. And the social worker, they have to solve the problem on account of which the client is disturbed. That is why we say that social work is problem solving in nature. Okay, so this is all about the basic nature of social work. This is how social work, considers, looks at an individual, looks at the various problems. Okay, now after this we are going to discuss the scope of social work. So what all comes under the purview of social work? What all do we have to study? Now, the concern of social work is to help people who are in some need. Okay, who are, require some kind of a help, and so that they are able to develop the capacity to deal with their problems themselves. So in that way you can say that social work is both science and also an art. So it is a science in the sense that the knowledge taken from different disciplines, it forms a body of knowledge for a social worker. Okay, and he or she will use the theoretical base for helping people for practice. And the theory, the various theories, okay, that are there in the social work, they have to be, they have to put into, they have to be put into practice. That is, that you have to integrate the theory which is there for social work with practice. And this required capacity to integrate theory with practice is what is known as a skill. Okay, and professional social work with selected knowledge and the set of social work values has to be transformed into a professional service. Okay, so we say that social work is both an art as well as a science. Now, a social worker has to establish a very positive relationship with the client. Okay. He or she must know how to write reports, how to conduct interviews, should be able to diagnose the problem, basically where the problem is, what kind of a treatment plan can be, thought about, what kind of an intervention can be planned, how can we assess the problem. We also need planning for its solution, how we are going to implement the plan, and finally how are we going to evaluate the outcomes. So the social worker's keen interest is in helping the client. Okay. And of course, there are certain methods through which the social worker can help the clients or help the people who are in need of the help. Now, these methods can be primary methods or they can be secondary methods. Now, the first three methods here, social casework, social group work, and community organization, these are known as direct methods or the primary methods. And the last three methods, namely the social work research, social welfare administration, and social action, these three are known as the secondary methods of social work. Okay, secondary or auxiliary methods, and these methods are very systematic. They are planned in very systematic manner, and their main objective is to help individuals, groups, and communities at large. Okay. So social casework, it deals with individual problems, okay? Individuals as part of the total environment. So we will be dealing with individuals. We will be taking their individual problems and then formulating a necessary plan of action or some kind of an intervention for the person to solve his problem. Okay. Social group work involve working with groups. So here we are going to work with groups and plan interventions according to the needs of the group. Now, working with group means mostly you will have a group comprising of around 8 to 12 individuals. Okay. And community organization requires working with the larger community. Now, that community could be it could be a village community, it could be a neighborhood, it could be any kind of community that exists. And when you are going to work with a particular community, when you are mobilizing that particular community to help solve their immediate problems, then this is what is known as a community organization. Okay. Now, after that, we come to the social welfare administration. Social welfare administration generally consists of processes which are required at uh, organizations, the way they have to be administered, the various administrative work that goes on into the development organizations or various welfare organizations. It may involve things like, mobilizing resources, selection and recruitment of personnels. Okay, then providing a documentation work or reporting work, the budgeting work. Okay, then it could be in terms of guidance and supervision of the staff, direction of the staff, provided skillful and sympathetic leadership. Okay, dealing with finances. All of these come a part and parcel of the administrative activities of any organization. Okay. Social work research, on the other hand, it is a systematic investigation for finding out new facts or test old hypotheses or verify the existing theories and discover some causal relationship of the problems in which the social worker is interested. So basically here we will be doing research work, okay, systematically investigating these different issues through the means of scientific uh, through scientific means. Okay, so we will be using the scientific process, using scientific process to carry out the investigation part. Okay, and that means that these various problems will be systematically investigated. Okay, through social work research and surveys. And last is social action, which aims at bringing about desirable changes to ensure the social progress. Here, we will be creating awareness about various social problems. We will be mobilizing resources. We will be encouraging different sections of the people, to raise their voice against undesirable practices, so and so forth. So, all these six methods, these are very important methods of social work, also comes under the scope of social work, where we are going to study these six methods of social work. Okay. After that comes the functions of social work. Now, the basic functions of social work includes restoration, it includes provision of resources and prevention. Okay. Now, all these functions are interdependent and they are intertwined. Okay. The restoration of impaired social functioning, it has two aspects. It has to be curative and rehabilitative. That means cure something. Curative aspect eliminates the factors which is responsible for this impaired social functioning, and after we remove these factors, we have to help the individual adjust to the new situation, which is known as the rehabilitative aspect. For example, if there is some kind of some say a problem, a person faced with the problem of drug addiction. Now, the curative aspect would be to cure this dependency of the person on a particular drug or a substance. Okay, how we are going to cure this dependency, how are we going to help the person come out of this addiction, okay, come out of this dependency. And the second would be the rehabilitative. After the person has been cured, how are we going to rehabilitate the individual, adjust to the new situation, bring in about, give him or her greater, opportunities to start over in the life. So all of these things are there. So this two functions of social work, including the curative and rehabilitative, these are the two important functions. Then apart from that, we have provision of resources. Okay, provision of resources, again, it has two aspects: developmental aspect and the educational aspect. So the developmental aspect is designed to enhance effectiveness of the resources and improve the personality factors for effective social interaction. And then the developmental aspect is this. The second is the educational aspect, is designed to acquaint the public with specific conditions. Like, for example, you may educate the masses, you can educate a particular community on various issues like HIV/AIDS and the spread of HIV/AIDS. How can we control the spread of HIV/AIDS? You can spread awareness on various importance of say women's education. You can educate the community on various aspects related to, say, why you require vaccination of young children. So all of these comes under the educational aspect. The third function of social function, apart from these two, is the prevention of social dysfunction. How you prevent social dysfunctioning, which includes early discovery of dysfunction, control or elimination of such conditions and situations that can have a potential harmful effect on the overall functioning. Okay, and also we can the third is basically is to for example, they have given an example, starting a youth club, okay, in some areas can help prevent juvenile delinquency. you know Premarital counseling may have some marriage problems in the future. So basically, how you go for early discovery of a particular social dysfunctioning, how you control or eliminate such conditions that potentially have a negative impact on the social functioning. So these are the three functions of social work. Okay. After this, we come to this goal of social work. What exactly are the different goals of social work? What a social worker is, you know, the various objectives that that they have developed over a period of time. The most important goal that a social work is, responsible for is to reduce the suffering of people by solving their problems. So any problem, it could be a psychosocial problem, it could be any behavioral problem, it could be any adjustment problem of children or adults, it can be dealt with separately. Okay. Social work enhances the social functioning of individuals, groups, and families by providing recreational services to the public, by helping them make judicious use of their leisure time, and by, preventing delinquency and crime in the society. So basically, it also links client system with the needed resources. So whatever their requirement is, the social worker will help them to get linked with the resources. Then it helps the individual in bringing about a change in the overall environment in favor of his or her growth and development. Okay. Now, basically, the social work, it provides democratic ideas and encourage the development of good interpersonal relations, resulting in proper adjustments with the family and the neighborhood. Okay, so these would be so thus we can say that the goals of the social work profession translates in general purpose into more specific directions for action. Okay, and these goals, they enhance a client's sense of competence. It helps to link them to resources to foster changes and to make organizations and social institutions more responsive to the needs of the individuals. Okay, specifically, their goals are related to activities which include enhancing the people's capacities to resolve problems. Okay, link clients with the needed resources, improve the social service delivery network, and promote the social justice through the development of the social policies. Okay, so these are the various different goals that the social work relates to. After that, we come to the personal attitude of the worker. Now, see, since we know that social worker is also a human being, he or she is going to experience all the emotions that a human being will experience. Okay, so once he or she is in a position for of helping others, there can be a tendency to feel superior. Sometimes the client, you will find that they are narrating this experience where the social worker will identify with him or her, and they will experience the same feeling. So you kind of tend to get involved very deeply, at emotionally with the client. Sometimes they may tend to see the client as an image of themselves, like how they were maybe some time back. So they see all that in the client. And this may have its roots in the worker's early life and experiences. But then, as a person, as a professional, we have to understand that we have to consciously be aware of such feelings and control them while we are getting professionally involved with an individual. Okay, we have to accept those feelings, and we have to avoid them getting mixed up, with the work. So any kind of such feelings that come up as a result of our past experiences or our involvement in the process, we have to be very much aware of these attitudes as well as the feelings, and we have to utilize them in a way which will be most constructive and positive for the client. Okay. Now, after this, we come to the social work ethics. Now, generally, we will find that any profession would give a lot of authority to its professionals. So, a layman who requires social work help maybe knowing the intricacies of the problem. Okay, a social worker's professional advice is very valuable. Okay, and but generally you will find that many a times social workers may charge a high price for their professional services or make certain undesirable demands from the public. Hence, in order to regulate the professional, a code of conduct is developed by the professional organization. So, this code of conduct, you will find that they have been developed of the kind of ethics that a professional social worker is supposed to follow. Okay. Now, here we come to the philosophy of the ethics. Before that, I will just excuse for 2 minutes, just take a break for 2 minutes. Hello. Yeah, I'm sorry. Okay, so then we come to the concept of philosophy of ethics. Why exactly ethics are responsible, are required. Okay, what is the philosophy behind this ethics? Okay, now every professional has an ethical responsibility towards the clients, okay, or the employing agency and the colleagues. So he or she will have a responsibility towards the community. Okay, relationship is the basis for his or her service. Okay, for example, the doctors have a, they have an ethical responsibility towards the patients. Similarly, we can say other professionals, be it lawyers, be it any other professionals, they have their related ethical responsibility towards their clients, okay, or towards uh, the individuals that they serve. This relationship should be impartial, and objective. That is, this should not discriminate The professional should not discriminate on the basis of the socio economic situation of the client. Okay, and the professional has to keep the client's problem and related information very confidential. Okay, and he or she should have a healthy relationship with colleagues based on equality, based on cooperation, based on helpfulness and regulated competition. Now, the professional also have a responsibility towards the society, and they need to contribute their ability and resources for the good of the society. This is towards the profession are even greater, this responsibility. Okay, because and that is the reason why the members they have to conform to the code of ethics. Now, a profession exists only when it is recognized, and recognition comes only by reserving jobs for people with technical training, where you're giving preference to qualification in jobs, providing awareness for promotions, financial resources, etc. Okay, now the ethical responsibilities are there towards the clients, there towards the employing agencies, towards the colleagues, towards the community, and towards his or her profession. So, a social worker's ethical responsibility towards his or her clientele, they impose the welfare of the individual as a primary obligation. Okay, and they also need to give a professional responsibility rather than importance to professional responsibility rather than to the personal interest. Okay, they have to consider the self determination of the client, that is how the decision that the client wants to take for his or her life. Okay, they have to keep the matters discussed with the client very confidential. Okay, and also respect the individual differences that they may find between different clients. Okay, then there is a ethical responsibility towards the employer. That means that they need to provide the employer with the correct information, they need to be loyal to them, they need to be held accountable for the quality and extent of service, and observe the regulations and procedures of the agency. They need to keep agency in public image, improve the public image of the agency. Okay, so these are some of the ethical responsibility towards the employer. Then the social worker, they have to respect their colleagues and fulfilling their responsibilities towards them, adding to their knowledge, treating them without any kind of a discrimination, okay, cooperating with them. All of these are some of the responsibilities towards their colleagues. Then, responsibility towards the community include protecting it from any unethical practices and contributing to the overall betterment of the society. Then, there is a responsibility towards his or her own profession. Okay, where you have to defend the profession from unjust criticism or misinterpretation. You have to enhance and sustain public confidence through self-discipline or personal behavior, and should also support the view that professional practice requires professional education. So these are some of the responsibilities towards different individuals, okay, community, and the profession that a social worker needs to have. Now we come to the various approaches of social professional social work. Now, there are different ideologies of social work because these exist globally. So, social work exists in different forms in different parts of the world. Historically, since historically, different ideologies have been formed related to social work, and we will understand these ideologies. So, first is the ideology or the approach of charity as social work. So this is basically the most initial, when we see the most initial time when charity was considered, although it is still considered, but charity was, the basic it used to be considered as the basic ideal, the basic requirement for a person. It was considered to be their religious duty, and not only all the religions of the world, they have supported this concept of charity as an important part of the duty as an individual. And the Western countries, they started the social work practice with charity mode. Okay, and we see this the various laws that were enacted by the government of UK, like the poor laws, and that were enacted in UK. They um, helped the state government to intervene in the matters of welfare, and to make this state responsibility to take care of the poor, okay, and the needy. Then another approach is what is known as the welfare social work approach, which starts with the passing of the Elizabethan Poor Law in 1601 in UK to deal with the poor. So this is the welfare social work approach, where the state was given the responsibility of taking care of the people who were in need of care and protection, and not just a matter of charity. But later, the government also realized that an individualized approach was needed to understand the problem, because people had different problems coming from different factors, and thus they say that charity organizations were started everywhere in different parts of the world to do that work. The clinical social work approach started in 1935, okay, where the Social Security Act was passed, recognizing the need for helping the poor. Okay, and this act was meant to handle the problem that was a consequence of industrialization. So the state took over some of the financial problems of the people, and for taking the problems, a large number of volunteers were also taken to work, and these were trained people who could employ casework practice, who could supervise untrained people. And most people though realized that money alone could not solve the problems, and that is why they turned to the counseling roles. Now this counseling has its base from psychological sciences, particularly from the psychoanalytical theory which was given by Sigmund Freud. Okay, so most of the counseling social work, most of the counseling approach in social work, or the clinical approach in social work, draws its roots from the psychoanalytic theory, or what is known as the Freudian theory. Okay, and Sigmund Freud and his theory on psychoanalysis is a very important factor that started the clinical movement, or the clinical approach in the social work. Now, this specialized form of direct social work intervention with individuals, with groups, and families, okay, and this approach uses disciplined use of self, okay, and the worker facilitates interaction between the individual and his or her social environment. So we will find that this approach generally works with individuals and with families as well as with groups. And here, the individual has to make a conscious use of the self, okay? And they have to facilitate interaction between the individuals and the social environment of the individual. After that, we come to the ecological social work approach. Here, you can say that problems are seen as deficits in the environment, okay, and not as personal deficits of individuals. It's basically this tradition, it emphasizes social treatment and social reform, which big forms the basis of ecological approach. So it is basically the overall environment of the individual that needs to be taken care of, that needs to be properly improved in order to change the situation of the individuals. So here, identifying the problem, identifying the clients and the target systems, and identification of action system with which change agent can achieve goals for changes are the steps in the ecological approach. Okay. After this, we come to what is known as a radical social work. Here, you will say that social workers are not satisfied with only care of the uh, disabled. This is basically has a lot of influence by Marxist ideology, and they advocated oppression as the cause of many problems, and they say that they need to broaden their professional responsibilities to include reforms. Okay, to include reforms and development in order to basically bring about changes and equitable social order. So this is, going beyond any kind of social reforms and development and changing the system by bringing about the basic changes in the social institutions and the relationships. And this is known as a radical social work. But for various reasons, this has failed to deal with the problems per se. Person with before that we come to this, this particular diagram, which talks about the person and environment conceptualization. So you will find that the person has been kept in the center, and then you have the different social systems, okay, which are there impacting the working of an individual. So these include the social systems, social services system, the political system, then there is an employment system, then we have the religious system, goods and services system, educational system, and the family system, and so on and so forth. Okay, so there we say that this individual or the individual, he is or she is impacted by the various social systems. Okay, now after that, we come to the next concept of progressive social work. Progressive social workers, they may identify with radicals or activists, and they are quite unhappy about the injustice in the society. So they are basically fighting to alter this oppressive elements in the society and to heal the wounds of their clients and educate them to make proper choices for building their future. Again, another approach is the feminist social work, which deals with the liberal feminism school of thought and emphasizes gender equality, equality of sexes, and legal reforms and equal opportunities, in every field. Okay, so this is basically the feminist social work approach. So these are the various approaches of social work that are there. After this, we come to the next unit, that is a professional social work, generic principles and their application. Okay. So here we are going to talk about some of the generic principles in social work and how these principles can actually be applied on field. Okay. Now, where do we have to apply? Where do we apply these principles? Now, um, we will come to the generic values of social work. Now we know that values of social work, any professional activity is guided by a set of values. So, like any professional activity, even social work, professional social work is also guided by a set of values. And there are certain core values which have evolved over a period of professional practice, which are common to all social work practice situations, irrespective of the methods. So, whatever method we are following, whether we are resorting to casework, whether we are resorting to group work, community organization, social action, or research, or whatever, we are supposed to follow these general principles. Okay, and every social group has its own set of expected behavior pattern that all the members belonging to that group, they have to strive to follow, accomplish a desired end state. So values are basically fundamental norms, and they are the preferred behavior patterns which are shared by the members of a group. And these patterns aim at integrating and channeling the organized activities of the members. Okay. For example, truthfulness is a value is it's a value that every group upholds. People are supposed to speak truth, okay, and people also willing to expend certain effort and energy to realize a value. They are ready to sacrifice or uphold a value or impose sanctions if anyone threatens to deny that value or to defile the value. Okay, then we come to the basic fundamental belief, which is the values of a profession are its basic fundamental beliefs and preferred behavior pattern, which has to be upheld by the professionals while they are practicing it. And social work as a profession, it deals with people having problems of social adjustments and social functioning. Okay. And a social worker has to follow the social values of the society, which he or she is also a part of. Okay. And we need to have a thorough understanding and appreciation for the social values which is prevalent in the society at that point of time. Many clients, many problems of the clients, they are related to a social value that they are not able to uphold. Okay, for example, an individual may not be able to take proper care of the family, or there may be some other factors related to the non-performing uh, for individuals leading to non-performance of their roles. So basically, in such a situation, the social worker who is having a fair understanding of the value of one's responsibility may counsel and help the client to take up the responsibility as a head of the family. So this is how the social worker restores the social functioning of the client. Now, social worker being a member of the society also have to adhere to these social values. Okay, sometimes they may be in a dilemma whether they whatever whenever they have to deal with a client who has violated social values which the social worker upholds in high esteem. For example, there may be a client who has some kind committed some kind of a um, say crime, you know. So how do a person then come to uh, basically to an understanding where, despite the work done by the client, the worker, the social worker, is supposed to come to the rescue of the client. Also, social work values and basic philosophy, they are related to each other. Okay, philosophy analyzes the basic principles and concepts of social life, and it provides quite significant and importance to the values of social life. Okay, and when these values are organized into a rational system, they form the philosophical background of social work. Now, some social work values basically focuses on three general areas. One is the values about people. Second is values about social work in relation to society. And the third is values that inform professional behavior. Now, some of these professional social work values have been discussed here. The first is value in the conviction. The value first is the conviction in the inherent worth, integrity, and dignity of the individual. Okay, so any person who's failing to perform or follow the social functioning is generally considered an unworthy and undesirable element by the society. Okay, he or she is often denied that dignity that should be there, given to him or her as an individual member of the society. And generally, these persons are considered with no integrity, and they are treated quite degradingly by the society. And people, they are not much concerned about why the person has not been performing his or her social responsibilities. So the reason why that person has committed a particular crime, you know, that is not generally seen. So for a social worker, we have to understand that our first responsibility towards client is considering that person is also worthy. okay? And he or she needed to be treated with that dignity and inherent worth. So, given an opportunity to understand and analyze a social situation better, a person may get out of the problem and may not get into a similar problem situation again. So, once we know why a person committed a particular offense or why that particular action, then we will be able to direct the behavior of that individual, you know, or maybe to remove the factors from the vicinity of that individual which has made him, you know, conduct such actions in the first place. Now, second value is belief in democratic functioning. Democratic functioning means that decisions making will be taken through consensus and nothing is imposed on the client. So we do not impose our decisions on the client. We let the client decide for himself or herself the kind of decisions that they want to take, what choices they want to make for their life, or how do they want to go about it. So all of this is something which is of utmost importance where the client will be choosing the solution. And the third value is the firm belief in equal opportunity. This means that basically people coming from every section of the society, coming from every different um, statuses, different intelligence, coming from different religion, caste, or economic statuses, they have they should be given equal opportunity, okay, and equal opportunity to basically live as a responsible member of the society. So we are here to fight against the social injustices which is mete out to the disadvantaged sections of the society, and also to the to seek to give protection to the vulnerable sections of the society. Then we come to the next value, that is the responsibility of the social worker towards himself or herself, their family, and the society. So basically, we need to understand that individuals, that we as social workers, we are not living in isolation. We are living as much a part of a society and of a family as any other individual. So we have a responsibility towards our, uh, you know, family as well. So besides our professional duties, we have to perform the duties towards our societies, towards the family. Okay, and when we fail to perform the social functioning, okay, this is also in a way a failure as a social work professional. So this is something which is important, that apart from the profession and individuals and clients, we have a responsibility towards the society in which we live in and also our families as well. Another value is transmitting whatever knowledge and skills we have learned over a period of time to others. So this can be done by, training people. This can be done by writing reports so that this knowledge is made available to the future, social workers. And thus we say that this way we can transmit the knowledge and the skills that we have gained to other members of the uh, professional social work community. Another value is separating the personal feelings from the professional relationship. So we have to understand that we should not allow our personal feelings to intrude when we are working as a professional. Okay. So we have to keep our biases, our prejudice views about the clients or other members at bay. Okay, we have to understand that there is no place for any of our preconceived notions when we are working with clients. Another value is assuming high standards of personal and professional conduct, which emphasizes that the conduct of the social worker, it should be exemplary at both personal and the professional levels. So we are not just working as good professional social workers, but also as good human beings, also positively contributing to the family, to the community, to the society at large. Okay, so all of these things we have to understand. Then there are certain generic principles of social work. Okay, where we have to these principles are generally statements of do's and don'ts to get the best results while practicing social work. Okay, and these are the guideposts for the professionals to carry out the work in the field. So principles are elaboration of the values in the form of understandable statements to practice the profession. For example, the value of dignity and worth of an individual is expressed in the principle of belief in the self determination of an individual. And these principles are time tested, and they have been arrived out of the vast experience and research that has been done by individuals for so many years. Now, a principle is a verbalized statement of an observed uniformity which is related to some class of objects. Okay, principles, that is general rules or laws, are concepts which are fundamental truths, and they are generally accepted by the community or a group. These are have been arrived at out of the vast experiences and research over a period of time. Now, these the principle, generally it can be related to a class of objects. It can be related to general laws or rules, concepts, fundamental truths. Okay, generally accepted tenets are the means by which we proceed from one situation to another. Okay, and generally there are some generic principles of social worker that are there. First is what is known as the principle of acceptance. Second is principle of individualization. Third is principle of communication. Fourth is the principle of self-determination. Fifth is the principle of confidentiality, non-judgmental attitude, and seventh is is finally the principle of controlled emotional involvement. So all these principles make that they are basically universal. So you have to follow these principles irrespective of the context in which you are practicing the social work practice. So, whether you are practicing in your own country, whether you are practicing in some other foreign country, these principles of social work are principles that have to be followed by the professionals at every level. Okay. So, these seven principles of social work, now, these are also very, very important in terms of your examinations. These principles may be asked either to separately, or they may be asked as a an essay type question where you are supposed to write down all the principles of social work. So this part needs to be done very well. Now, first is the principle of acceptance. Now, what is the principle of acceptance? Principle of acceptance means that the uh, professional social worker as well as the client, they should both accept each other for getting the best possible results. Okay, now this means that the client should accept the worker, because the worker is the one who's helping the client to overcome the problem situation, and the social worker should also accept the client irrespective of the socio-cultural background he or she may be coming from. Okay, unless the client feels that the social worker has a potential to understand his situation, the client will not cooperate with the social worker. Okay, and the intervention may not go as planned. So this acceptance should be there for both of them. After comes the principle of individualization, which says that there is a uniqueness of the individual and an inherent value which lies at the heart of social work practice. So every individual is unique. Every individual comes from a particular, background, comes from a particular situation, and they are different from other individuals. Okay, their outlook towards life, towards the world, their worldview. the way where they perceive the problem and the solutions, all of these are different from different individuals, and we need to accept and we need to respect this individualization. Also, we understand that we are here dealing with a client and not some inanimate object. Okay, we have to find out ways in which we can treat the person with respect, with dignity and value. Excuse me. Now, generally, also considering the fact that every client is different from different individuals from other clients, and they require separate solutions, maybe for similar problems, because of the different uh, background that they come from, because of the different needs as perceived by the clients. Okay, and that is why we have to see every client as different individuals. Then come the principle of communication, which means that the communication between the social worker and the client is of paramount importance. And there should be a very direct chain of, social work communication that should be there between the client and the social worker. So this communication forms a very important aspect, and whatever the client information, whatever information is given to us by the client, we will formulate our intervention according to this communication. So the line of communication between the social worker and the client should be direct, and it should be open, and also it should be clear. There should not be any scope for any misunderstanding. So that is why we need to be very open to communication. Understand that people may have different hesitations when they are communicating with us, based upon their past experiences, based upon their attitudes and temperament. So we need to have the mental capacity to comprehend these, uh, you know, differences. And also, we need to have enough skills to grasp the verbal as well as the non-verbal communication of the client. So it's just not the verbal communication that the client gives to us, but there is also a non-verbal communication that the client may give to us, may convey to us. So we have to have this ability to grasp this non-verbal communication. Okay, and create an environment of overall trust where whatever the client is going through, he or she should be able to communicate to us his or her feelings, okay, information that is required for us to prepare a good intervention plan, and also understand that we must always try to, motivate the client to be open about everything, okay, and also another important supportive principle with the principle of communication is what is known as the principle of confidentiality. Okay, this means that we have to keep confidential all the information that we will gather from the individual, that we will gather from the client. We have to keep that information to ourselves and not misuse the information, not do not expose the client to other individual, to other persons, and or the information which is being given to us by the client, we are not supposed to actually expose it, and we are to keep the identity of the individual as well as the information which is being communicated to us by the client very confidential. Otherwise, what happens that the trust between the worker and the client, that cannot take place, that trust somehow does not come, and the individual, or you can say the client will totally you know um not give any information to us in the future if he or she feels threatened from disseminating information, fearing that the social worker is going to expose the information to somebody else. Then is the principle of self-determination, which says that the client has a right to self-determination. We cannot impose any decisions or solutions, to the clients. We need to understand. We need to understand that the client has a right to decide what is good and what is bad for him or her, and we need to respect the decision that the client takes, whatever decision that they take, the way they want to, um, go ahead with the suggestions. If they want to take up a decision regarding something in their life, they have the right to self determination, and we are in no way going to manipulate the client in any manner. So we are not going to impose our decisions or manipulate the client. Okay, it is up to the client to take the decisions for themselves, and we have to work only as, you can say, um, basically providing them support. We have to just provide them with the support and encourage them to take the decisions. After this comes the principle of non-judgmental attitude. It means that we have to start the professional relationship with the client without a bias. So individuals may come from different backgrounds, different religious, backgrounds, different socioeconomic background. They may come from different family, from different cultural background. We are not supposed to bring our predetermined biases uh, into this relationship. Okay, we have to treat the client as somebody who has come for help, and we should be willing to help the client without getting influenced by the opinions of what others feel or think about him or her, or our own bias towards the past, um, uh, you know, uh, you can say, situation of the client. So this is the principle of non-judgmental attitude. And then is the finally it is the principle of controlled emotional involvement, which means that we have to avoid getting too personally involved with the client's predicament. Okay, that is, we have to build up a very professional relationship with the client and not get too um, uh, you know um, emotionally involved with the client in any manner. Okay, this is going to interfere with the professional relationship and our judgment about the client's problems. So this kind of an overindulgence, with the client's life should be avoided at all costs, and we need to prevent, getting any kind of uh, too much of involvement with the client. So these are the general principles of social work, which are there. Now, this is all about how professions are considered to be a response to the human needs. Now there is a set of theory which is given, that people have different needs, maybe physical needs, it could be psychological needs, there could be social needs, could be emotional needs. There are different types of needs that individuals may have, and every individual strives and struggles to meet these needs. And these needs are met in some complex interactions between the individuals and the social environment. Sometimes what happens, individuals may fail to meet some of these needs due to certain reasons. And most of the times in earlier societies, the unmet needs of people was generally taken care by the family, by the occupational groups, by religious groups, or by other authority. But as societies evolved, the needs became more and more complex, and helping activities had to be organized in a systematic manner. Okay. Now, this resulted in an evolution of various professions like medicine, nursing, engineering, law, etc. And social work is also a result of this realization. Social work professions, they exclusively evolve to give relief to human society by finding certain permanent solutions to these unmet human needs. Okay. Now, one important factor which proves to be quite an obstacle to meeting these needs is poverty. Now, the attitude of the society till the time up to 18th century, okay, um, uh, was mainly due to the failure of the individual or due to the sins or wrath of the god. So they used to say that if some unmet needs of the society or some unmet need of these individuals going to poverty was a result of, basically some wrath of the gods, or because of sins, and there was no need to come to the rescue of such people. Most of them, they were left to fend for themselves. But with the advent of great philosophers and social thinkers, this understanding of human suffering, it has underwent a great deal of change. Now, the scientific inquiry into the causes of poverty, this indicates, first of all, existence of some social and economic conditions, okay, which causes failure. And second, poverty cause various other social problems in the society. Thirdly, it also says that when we give alms, then we are providing a temporary relief measures, which is of no use. And if we want to go into some permanent solutions, then we have to deal with the problem of poverty and thereby other needs of the people. And finally, that people want to come out of the poverty and they can be helped to come out of it. So, this was the scientific inquiry into the causes of poverty, which led to the growth of, social work philosophy. Now, the charities organization and other settlement house movements, all these, the YMCA, the YWC organizations, all these started with the response to the needs of the poor, okay, the destitute people, often children, single mothers, and other people who were in some need, okay, and they could not help themselves. They had to be, assisted either by the government or by some other agencies who would be willing to look after their needs. And charity was provided on scientific lines by undertaking a thorough investigation into the state of dependence and the factors responsible for it. So these organizations, which grew at that point of time, they started to looking at, they started to look at these, you know, problems, social problems from a very uh, scientific manner. Okay, and they started to investigate on the needs of these people on the case by case, basis, and how these the needy, then they were encouraged to find resources within the family and the community and become independent. So this scientific approach to charity and philanthropy, this replaced the earlier approach of having untrained volunteers, and these were then replaced by trained paid workers. And the final outcome of this process was the emergence of the professional social work in the late 19th century, and this was basically to cater to the physical, social, and emotional needs of the people. And in as a professional, as a profession, social work responds to the needs of the people in ways where no other profession does. Okay, and it brings tries to bring out the full potentialities of the clients, enables them to stand on their own in meeting their respective needs. Then we come to the social change for humanization as the goal. Now, social change is inevitable, that is, changes taking place in various societal institutions, in societal structure, in societal functioning, and sometimes these changes may be slow, sometimes they may be quite rapid. Whenever sudden or violent changes takes place, people are generally thrown off guard, and many a times they fail to cope up with these sudden changes. And these changes before and during the medieval periods were slow. So when we were looking at the ancient period and the medieval periods, then we know that the changes taking place during these periods were very slow, mostly on the absence of because of the absence of things like there were no such technology was not there, the means of transportations were limited, and basically the social information, the spread of information was overall slow, and that is why the changes that were taking place at that point of time were slow. But then as the society evolved, as industrialization took place, as various science and technology developed, as various means of communication and information sharing they developed, we see that now the changes are taking place very fast, at a very fast pace. And we know that the goal of social work is to bring about humanization of the society through a process of planned change, and that social work is strongly committed to the most fundamental human values and principles. That means human dignity, equality, democratic way of functioning, right to self determination, and right to privacy. And only these values and principles can establish a society with a human face. Okay. And we also know that the social workers, they have a commitment towards the betterment of the society. They also are committed to intervene at individual level, at group level, or at the community level to tackle the problems and to guide the forces of change for the good of the society. Now, professional social workers, whether they are practicing in public or private settings, okay, who are in constant touch with those needs of the people which demand change in social institutions, can foresee the forces that are likely to affect change and initiate steps to maneuver changes for social betterment. Now, generally, we will find that practitioners who experiment with the desired change situations, they work at the micro level. Social work educators who undertake research to analyze social conditions and factors of change. Okay, these are some of the people who are working at that level. It may be to change, say the position of women, empower them in the society, okay, or maybe social workers may initiate formation of small groups of women, give them information. Now, result of such experiments are passed on from to the policymakers who can incorporate, these desired changes into the relevant policies, and then they can affect the change at the macro level. So, social work will contribute to social change in a planned way and for the betterment of the society. So, this is how social work can bring about changes in the society from different levels. It can collaborate with other disciplines. It can collaborate with other practitioners, with other professionals, and this is how it can bring about changes in the situation of individuals. Now, here we come out how we can intervene in the basic units of the society. Okay. Now, generally, we know that social work is carried out at different levels. We can intervene at the level of individuals, at the family level, the group level, community level, and the society at large. And these interventions at each level are more or less independent, and sometimes they are quite interdependent depending upon the nature and demands, okay, of the situation. Now, social work practice has developed many ways to intervene, okay, and have these uh, These have crystallized into different methods of social work, which deal with various units of the society. So we have casework, which is generally working with individuals. Okay, we have group work, which working at the group level. Okay, and or also at the family level. We have community organization method, which works at the community level, and the social action method, which works at the society level. So we have different methods of social work, which works at different levels of the society. Now, the individual level intervention attempts to restore the social functioning of the individual. So, we as social workers, social case workers, we would try to restore the social functioning of the individual, the way he or she works as a member of the society. Okay, we can help or assist him in overcoming problem situation by bringing about changes in their behavior, in their approach and attitudes, and their perception towards their life situations. In some cases, the problem is not in the individual, sometimes with the environment in which that individual is living. So, therefore, work at the secondary level requires working with the family, working with the peer groups, or working with the neighborhood or a community. Okay, it could be organizations like school, it could be organizations like, a social club, so and so forth. Now we know that the family of any individual is one of the most important organization. It is the most important unit where which influences the individual to a great extent. So the family becomes the unit for social work intervention when we are providing help to the individual members of the family or the entire family. For example, then, like Straub has outlined three types of needs that call for family work. Okay, that call for family work. They are firstly those due to the external factors. Just a moment. Sorry. So, Straub has outlined three types of needs that call for family work. Okay, firstly, those due to external factors. Now, then secondly, there may be those which arise due to some internal factors, and then there can be a combination of both internal and the external factors. Okay, now these factors they often result in certain malfunctioning within the family. It could be, a marital discord due to miscommunication or a serious differences of opinion between members of the families caused due to differential attitudes or differences of opinions among the family members. Certain calamities may also disintegrate the family, and all of these may cause serious problems within the families. Then sometimes failure of the members, particularly the spouses, to perform their roles, they lead to neglect of children, elders, and sick members of the family, and these also create a lot of problems. Now, a group as a unit of intervention is generally envisaged when a group of people they have a common problem or a need. For example, you may have a group of alcoholics, okay, or persons who are suffering from alcoholism. Very often these are it's a very typical group which is used for clinical counseling sessions, also known as the AA group at times. Many of you may be aware of this. Anybody knows AA group? Has anybody worked with the AA group before or heard of AA group?
No, man.
Okay. So basically, AA group means Alcoholic Anonymous group, and these are groups which are these are therapeutic groups which are formulated to help people overcome the addiction to alcohol. Okay, so group work are there in different settings. It is done in different settings for people going undergoing different problems. It can be done on to overcome. or help these individuals in overcoming their problems related to performances of social roles, the decision making processes, leadership styles, and communication patterns. All these can be very much resolved when we are working with groups. Now, the community can also be considered as a unit of social work intervention to cater to problems that are affecting a large number of people who are living in the community. Okay. At the community level, social work generally bridges the gap between what is social welfare needs and the social welfare resources. So maybe the social welfare needs are different, but the resources that are required to bring out those changes or to bring about the social welfare intervention may not be they may, there may not be parity between these two. So there may be lack of resources. Now, social work at the community level, it promotes cooperative and collaborative attitudes among the different groups in the community. And it also campaigns for involvement of people who are affected by the problem. Like social work intervention will aim at the empowerment and capacity building of the community. For example, a social worker may enter a community in order to bring about or to suggest some interventions which may lead to some sustainable livelihood choices to the community members. So this is something which is done very frequently in when we are dealing with urban development and rural development work. This is basically work with working directly with the community at the community level. So we will look, go into the community, we will look at the various, um, the resources and the people in the community, the leadership in the community, and then we are going to see the immediate problem that is faced by the community. We are going to formulate plans, okay, yeah, or interventions by bringing the people together, by mobilizing the resources of the community, by mobilizing the people and help them to solve these problems, okay, and to carry out the intervention at the community level, which would help them to basically create opportunities for the people in the community. Now, social work generally is practiced in social welfare organizations, okay, which can be under the government or they can be under private concerns. And they also have to work as an administrator, where they have to carry out the work of planning, organizing, directing, coordinating the delivery of services and work. They have to prepare budgets, okay, and other financial, work, carry out financial work. They have to supervise in staffing, bringing about staff for the agency, reporting or documentation about the performance of the organization, and all of these require a good understanding of the administration work. And this knowledge of administration, it comes very handy for improving the overall efficiency and effectiveness of the service delivery among these organizations. So this is all about the second unit, where we have studied about the basics of social work and the various services at various levels. Next is voluntary action and social work in India. Now, in this chapter, we will be dealing largely with the voluntary action that have been taken place, the different what exactly voluntary action is, how it is different from a professional social work, areas of intervention and implications of voluntary action, why voluntary action is required at the first place, is it relevant, what is the role of voluntary action, okay, in the government, um, uh, you know, All of these things we are going to study in this unit. But I guess these two units we will take up tomorrow. So tomorrow when we are meeting again for the class, we will be taking up unit 3 and unit 4. So this will bring an end to the second block of this course. So I think I will call it a day today. Any questions or queries relating to whatever we have studied today on professional social work and the methods of social work?
If I have, ma'am, I will ask tomorrow.
Pardon?
I said if I have question, I will ask tomorrow.
Okay, you have question you are going to ask tomorrow. Okay. Any other person? Nasreen, Kamaruddin, Mariam, anybody else would like to share something? Just add on to what I have said.
No, thank you.
Okay. So, thank you very much for joining me for today's session. We will meet again tomorrow. And tomorrow we are going to take this block further. We are going to do the third and the fourth unit of this block. So, have a good day, all of you. Good night, and see you tomorrow. Thank you for joining me today for the class.
You
You
too,
may all
ma'am.
leave the
Bye.
session now.
Thank you
Yeah,
so
you may
much,
all leave.
ma'am. Good
Thank
night.
you. Thank you. Good
Bye.
night. Bye.
Bye.